Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering the 2024 Sony Bravia 9 TV, the gaming portion. In this video we're going to be talking about the gaming menu, the picture settings, and oh yeah, we're going to be talking about the blooming department as well too. I've been getting a lot of comments about that and I want to cover that in this video. So sit back and relax and hopefully everyone will enjoy the video. Let's start with the gaming menu. Sony's done some good work with the Bravia 9 to cater to us gamers. The game menu is pretty straightforward to the point, giving us the essentials. Right now you see that I'm toggling between the crosshair and the crosshair type. You do have that functionality when it comes to first person shooters to help cater towards those gamers. When it comes to picture mode, you do have standard, FPS, first person shooter, RTS, real time strategy. Now, here's my take on standard. I think the standard is the real MVP. Why? Because the FPS and RTS modes tend to overbrighten the screen to the point where it looks like you're gaming on the surface of the sun. Completely washed out. Now, trust me, stick to the standard for a balanced picture. So, after the picture mode, you do have VRR for those buttery smooth frame rates. Trust me, once you go VRR, you'll never go back. Next, you have motion blur reduction. Great if you hate that soap opera effects and want your movement crisp and sharp. Then you have the black equalizer that really helps bring out the shadows. And then you got the screen size and custom settings. A little tweak here and there, especially if you're switching between different types of content or you just have things your way. Then you have the crosshair and the crosshair type, which I mentioned before, which is the built-in. And why not? It's perfect for first-person shooter games, and you can even customize the style a little bit over the top, maybe, but cool. But it's a nice little touch that Sony has put in. All right, let's get into the picture quality on the Bravia 9. Straight out of the box, the colors pop while looking like someone just splashed a bucket of paint on the screen. It's just vibrant, detailed, and really pulls you into the game. However, I did have to make some tweaks to the picture settings to get it just right for my liking, especially while playing in SDR mode. Depending on the game, you might need to adjust the settings to avoid a washed out look, but here's the good news. When it comes to HDR gaming, I didn't have to tweak anything. It looked fantastic right from the start. What stood out the most to me is how smooth everything looks, no banding at all while playing, which is a big deal for those who can't unsee those annoying stripes and gradients. Whether you're exploring vast open worlds or battling out in a first person shooter game, and the clarity is top notch. Now let's talk about the response time. This is a mini LED TV, and you could definitely tell Sony didn't cut corners here. The response is surprisingly great for the type of panel, keeping gameplay fluid without any types of pesky ghosting or making you want to throw your controller at the wall. Whether you're chasing down enemies or just enjoying a scenic drive in your favorite racing game, the Bravia 9 keeps up with the action effortlessly. And speaking of the visuals, let's dive into the blacks and shadow details. The Bravia 9 does an impressive job with its deep blacks, which is crucial when you're trying to spot enemies hiding in the dark corners of a map. The level of detail in the shadows is superb. You get to see all the subtle gradations rather than just a block of darkness. Now, I know the camera might sometimes show a bit of black crush in the video, but trust me, it doesn't look like that in person. Watching it live, the Bravia 9 really nails those deep, inky blacks without losing any crucial details in the processing. And to really put those deep blacks and shadow details to the test, I fired up Ghost of Tsushima. This game is the perfect example of how well the Bravia 9 handles complex lighting and shadow scenarios. Whether it's a dense forest at night or the dimly lit interior of the ancient shrines, the Bravia 9 keeps everything distinct and beautifully rendered. The subtle differences in shadows of blacks and grays are clear, and you can see all the fine details and really brings the game world to life. Now, I know through the video, it might not look as impressive, but trust me, in person, the Bravia 9 picture quality is something to behold, and you'll be blown away by how immersive and true to life everything feels on the display. So before moving to the blooming department, another great feature of the Bravia 9 is the detail info you get right in the gaming menu. It displays everything you need to know: your current resolution, refresh rate, the HDR status, whether it's using BT 2020 color space, and if you're running 8-bit, 10-bit, or 12-bit color. Plus it shows YUV, RGB with 422 chroma subsampling, and specific HDMI inputs you're using. It's these little details that makes a big difference, especially if you're a tech enthusiast who loves to fine tune everything aspect of all your gaming experience. It's like having a mini control center of your visuals right at your fingertips. Now let's get up close and personal with the blooming. I'm going to take you right up to the screen and check it out from different angles, because while the Bravia 9 does a great job at minimizing blooming, it's not completely immune. You really have to get super close or look from a sharp angle to notice any blooming. It's that subtle. For a mini LED, that's pretty impressive. Is in normal viewing conditions, it's hardly noticeable and definitely not something that will pull you out of any movie content or gaming viewing experience. To give you a clear example, let's dive into Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 3, the scene where Eleven is on the other side searching for Mac's brother. The scene is packed with dark, shadowy elements and bright highlights that really put the Bravia 9's blooming control to the test. As you can see, when the light starts to flaring up around 11, there's a tiny bit of halo effect, but you have to be particularly on top of the screen and looking at it from extreme angles to even notice. Sony has done a great job keeping this in check and is miles ahead of what you get with any mini LED models out there. Now let's switch gears and look at another example where blooming tends to show up a bit more during rolling credits. This is a classic text for any TV blooming control, especially in SDR mode. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let everyone know that I did up the exposure to show some very, very extreme cases, but I don't see the blooming like this. But I want to give everyone just an idea of how extreme the exposure, especially with camera, because the real the reality of things is that the blooming on the Bravia 9, you see it in SDR, but it's not something that is very jarring. But it really only happens in the SDR mode when you're watching rolling credits, mostly like anime or something like that. But for some reason, if I'm looking at HDR, I really don't see it that much. So looking at an example of Demon Slayer right now that I'm showing on my screen, what I am seeing right now, this is what I consider what I'm seeing in person. I don't see blooming that much. You do see it a tad bit, but it's not jarring where you go ahead and say, oh, this TV is awful. Now, that's something that I just wanted to just throw that out here. But when you're looking at these credits right now, and even when I pull up the title, the blooming is, like I said, is very super minimum. Just give everyone just a heads up on this. It's not extreme as what other people may think it out to be. But as I mentioned before, and I will say this over and over again, this is only for SDR. When I'm going to HDR, on the other hand, it the Barbie 9 does a fantastic job. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I showed you in Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 3, you may see a little bit of blooming, but it's not as much as you think it is. And these are kind of like the examples that I just wanted to demonstrate, just to show this is what you're going to see. So when you're looking at Demon Slayers, for example, you see the rolling credits, and you can see some of the pictures that's coming up right now. This is what I see. Is not a blooming disaster. Uh, just want to throw that out there. There could be some improvements on here because Sony needs some input and I don't want to say it's the best out there, but it's on the top of the class with the other mini LED TVs. And so it does need of some improvement, but it's not something that you'll go ahead and say this is the worst TV in this category when it comes to the blooming part or when it comes to light bleed. So I just want to throw that out there for everyone who are curious or are interested in this specifically. But I thought this would be a really, really, really good example. And I'm even getting like super close to the screen just to really give everyone an idea that the blooming is very minimal. And this is what I am actually seeing in person. So the camera, what you're seeing right now is what you expect to see. I did switch the exposure a little bit early in the video to show the super extreme cases. But other than that, that's it. Like even looking at certain angles, I think the Barbie 9 has done a good job. And something that I'm looking at SDR, especially when I'm looking at anime and looking at the rolling credits and looking at the picture on a black screen, especially, it's Sony has done a good job with this. And as I mentioned, there's always going to be improvements with this. But other than that, this is what you're going to get if you see this in person. All right, folks, that's a wrap on the deep dive into the gaming performance of the 2024 Bravia 9. From the impressive blacks and the shadow details to the minimum blooming and the responsive gameplay, Sony has really put together a solid mini LED TV that's sure to enhance your gaming experience. Whether you're a casual gamer or someone who's demand the best picture quality, the Bravia 9 does not disappoint. Just remember, like with any TV, a few tweaks here and there can make all the difference in getting the perfect picture. And if you're watching in HDR, you're in for a real treat, no matter the adjustments needed. Thanks for sticking around to the end. And if you found this review helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And do you think that the Bravia 9 lives up to the hype? Or is there another TV that you're eyeing to your next gaming setup? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, happy gaming and keep those controllers charged. See you on the next one. Take care. Bye.